This episode of Speakers of Eidolon is made possible by our generous patrons, like Kylin, Scry de la Rosa, Omega Cat Comet, Hans Grenade, Anna Ginteres, Lilium Tenebrae, Courtney, Maylie Algren, Ariana Barakeel, Elin, Casey Schaefer, Lily Black, Chaitin, Chesha Saltiri, Ariel, Erisu Yamakawa, Sirifula Lirafu, Daimos, Ignal the Dragon, Jamie Asur, Fafamai Kokomai, and Azuta Starbreeze. Support the show and become a patron today at patreon.com/SpeakersXIV.
This is Speakers of Eidolon.
Good evening, Aorcians. Welcome to Speakers of Eidolon, episode 122. I'm Lakeel Bravestone, and I'm joined today by Rollo. There's a big red triangle. Rollo Des.
I'm here. Hi.
There you are, and Malavanadar.
Hello.
We haven't had like an episode with all four in a while. There's always one. You guys keep alternating between being gone.
Yeah.
Ever see us in the same room? Exactly.
Today, we're low-key celebrating the 4-year anniversary of Speakers Network, but we won't talk too much about that today in the main show. We will talk about that in the post-show, because in the main show today, we will talk about a interview that was done during the FanFest with Koji Fox. It's very interesting, a lot of lore, and a lot of very long answers. There's particularly one question and one answer that I like more than the others, but we'll get to that. We'll also talk about the Yoshi-P Eureka interview done before FanFest. It's very interesting. It gives a look on how the dev team experienced Eureka before, during, and after the launch of Animals and Pagos. And we'll see if we can fit in Mogmail. We have so much Mogmail. We'll see what we can do. If we can't get through it during the main show, we'll try to do it during the post show, because that's when we'll also talk about the anniversary. So if you have any questions about, or anything you want to send us in regards to the anniversary, you can do so with Mogmail at speakersxiv.com/Mogmail. If anything comes in during the show, we'll read it. That will get priority over the other Mogmail, because it is the anniversary episode. Right. But first, in quick news, letter from the producer live part. Is it? No, it's not. It's 40.
It's a number.
It's 40. It says 47, but I think it might actually be 48. It's not part 2 of 41. No, wait. Stop using Roman numerals now. It's over.
We stopped. You guys can stop too.
Yeah.
48, I think it is. The date has been announced for December 21st, 2018 at
Oh.
Hey guys.
Hello. At 11. This Skype update, we thought it was a blessing, but then it turned out to be the opposite.
God.
Well, interesting.
Just keep going, it's fine.
It usually solves it. It sorts itself out.
If it's
after
not solved
a
in
while.
a couple minutes.
Let's just do this. Hello, everyone. Let's see if I just unload. Hey.
Oh, hey, I'm back. Okay.
You.
Thanks, audio listeners.
Again
This
for
is
YouTube.
special.
Let's just start over for YouTube. In quick news, letter from the producer live part 48 has been announced. The date has been announced for December the 21st, 2018 at 11 a.m. GMT. So that means we probably get the trailer, and we might know more about the raid. I believe Woolhead will be making an appearance during the live letter as well. So that's
one to
interesting.
catch then.
This live is still a two-parter, right? Or not
no,
this one, but the set is still 2 for 4.5.
it's technically
right?
part 2 then, yes, because
Okay.
this is the last part though. So I'm going to then assume that the patch will be out like 2 weeks or so. Isn't that what it's tradition now? So that's on the 21st, so the first week of January. Although they have recently pushed it back. Maybe it might be the week after.
Holidays might delay it too. But,
yeah,
so,
we'll see. We'll be early January anyways. And then patch 4.5 introduces some UI changes, and that was posted on the dev blog. They showed off some new stuff. We talked about wanting to have, because they introduced the favorites system for minions and mounts, and we said, well, we should have a roulette that only has the favorites for, minions and mounts, because I keep getting that fucking Valentine's chair. So now I'll never have to see it again, because in patch 4.4 we get a minion and mount roulette.
Yeah,
well,
we
not
did it.
technically. There's a button in the roulette where you can check or uncheck depending on what you want.
There is a button.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah. That's that's nice.
That's exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna put every single mount I have in there except for the Valentine's chair.
Wow.
So that's right. I said that. So it'll replace it won't replace. It'll be these buttons. But if you press that thing at the bottom, am I understanding this correctly?
Yes.
Your roulettes will only include the favorited mounts.
Yeah.
So that's good news. Next up, they also showed off some HUD transparency settings, which is cool. You can now turn down the opacity of certain elements on
Very
screen.
cool.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to I don't know what I'm going to use it for.
Maybe for the party list. That's kind of
yeah.
If everything on the screen was slightly transparent.
Yeah, they show an example here.
See a lot more.
Yeah, where they've turned the top one there is turned down to the inventory grid is at 50%. The main menu is 30%, and then the currency is full on 0%. So it shows you I guess it makes the buttons less jarring, because I really don't like the menu buttons. So maybe that helps a little bit. Also tends to make stuff look cleaner when you can have some opacity on them. Or lower the opacity even. They've also added some filters to the challenge log, so you can now display all, display complete, or display incomplete, which is really neat. Now you can really see, what you have to work on, or you can see all the stuff you've done. Still no word on the removing that annoying pop-up.
Yeah.
They're just
How long has that been there now?
Oh,
4.1 or something?
Yeah. It's been there for a while. No word on that. They're forcing that down our throats for no reason.
If I turn on the opacity all the way, is it gone?
Oh. It'll still do the ping noise now.
Yeah.
And plus it's for notices too. You need that for the duty.
That's true.
Thing.
That's true. Right. They also this is something I didn't know, because I gave up on the alarm immediately after it launched. Alarm's sound category changed from background music to system sounds. It was on background music.
I guess so.
So how do you get sorted in there?
How do you use the Duty Finder, Mala? You turn system sounds on, so you only have system sounds on. Turn them up, and then you do something else. So when the game is inactive, only system sounds is active. So when it dings, you hear it, right? If you were to use the alarm, you would have to have background music turned on.
Yeah.
What an absurd. Well, they fixed it. They've also added a sound effect for when a ready check is initiated. So that's nice.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. There are also
improvements.
Yeah. They're also.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, Ruby's making her her presence known as usual. Group posts is also being worked on, but there was no information on that. But there's more coming to that as well. So
alliance poses, maybe.
Oh yeah, that could happen.
Yeah. I don't know what they're. Yeah, what else can they add other than that now? I feel like the group post thing is really good now. You can do
They should
pretty
add
much everything.
in like Snapchat face filters.
Yeah, I want the dog filter.
Yeah.
On everyone, yeah.
Okay,
make it happen. You got the tombstones already.
Yeah,
the tombstone phones.
Yeah.
We might as well just go down the whole.
Let's just go all in.
Yeah.
Let's just make like a virtual like a Snapchat, Instagram.
Oh my god.
Social media within Eorzea.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah.
People will love it. People just like real life.
Love it. Okay.
But you can only access it from your in-room.
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah.
That would happen. That would.
Okay, let's move on to the Koji Fox interview. This was conducted by Gamer Escape during FanFest in Las Vegas. And it kind of goes straight on here with some. We're going to go pretty deep into lore here, so get your lore cap on. So Gamer Escape just starts with the following. Let's start with some cosmological clarity. So much has changed since the last time we talked about it. You've mentioned in the past that the 13 different dimensions, shards, branched off the source at the same time, and these 14 dimensions have been diverging ever since. More recently, the Omega story arc shows us traveling across this vast interstellar, at least, space. How much of the source dimension's universe is copied over? Do you guys know? That's a pretty heavy.
Loaded.
Yeah.
Wow. Opening question.
Yeah. Koji Fox, of course, gives a pretty big, large, long answer. Well, I can tell you that a lot of stuff regarding source and shards and what's going on in one of those things, is one of those things that's going to be explained a lot more in coming patches and expansions. Expansions, plural. So I've been told not to get too deep into it. We've had a lot of these questions as well for Oda-san. We can't really talk about these now, but answers are coming. But in the sense of how far is the split? To my knowledge, the split is focused mainly on Hydaelyn, the planet being split. Now, how far that extends, that's one of those things I'm going to have to confirm with Oda-san. I think the other questions were like, is Hydaelyn the only planet that's split? Are there other planets that split? Can you talk about the Dragon Star? That confirms there are other planets, so Hydaelyn is not the only planet in the universe. But is the Dragon Star part of the Source's universe, or is it a different universe? And what about the Dragon Star? Does it also split into 13? Do all planets split into 13? The only thing I can confirm is that Hydaelyn is not the only planet in the universe. But beyond that, it's going to be one of those things that we're going to be talking about in the near future. Hopefully, a lot of those answers will come to light. Super interesting.
Sometimes you forget that dragons are aliens in this game.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
yeah.
I always imagine it as just like the whole flat universe is just like 13, 14 versions of it.
Yeah.
But if he's now saying it's like independent bodies, might be
it opens up so
many doors. Why not make
it
simple?
That's complicated.
It almost feels like we have to go to the moon. We have to go to space.
We go to the moon.
I feel like
at this point,
there's a lot of focus.
And then we can have spaceship expeditions.
Oh well, I don't think Eorzeans can build. Well, Guardians perhaps could do it. They could probably build a spaceship.
We're going to make friends with them, and they'll build the spaceship, and we'll send it away for 18-hour expedition.
Elegants are putting shit in orbit.
It's true.
So
they also had the Ragnarok, which was technically a spaceship, right?
Yeah.
So
God, yeah.
It's possible.
It is possible. God, I haven't even thought about that. Fucking Elegants went to space. What is this universe?
The spaceship thing expansion.
Oh,
it's gonna happen, guys.
Yeah, because even back in 1.0, they were like, maybe we should make an expansion on that one moon. So, I mean, yeah, space has been a topic in this game for a while.
We've not even explored the planet.
Right.
What if we don't see Mirror City and we'll see space before that?
Oh my god.
That's so sad, but also could be true.
The new world, no. Space first.
We're going to space. Okay, so Omega and Midgard's armor are definitely from the source dimension, just from out there somewhere. Koji says, I'm gonna say, I think so. But again, that's one of those things I would really like to confirm, at least from what I know so far. Yes. We're not talking splits there. In a faraway place, you have Midgard's armor. And in a faraway place, there's Omega and its creators. And then traveling the sea of stars to do his Omega shit, and then wanting to become man.
You didn't paraphrase the Omega
Its
shit.
creators.
That was just yeah.
Who are its creators?
We don't know.
Yeah.
But they're out
He
there.
doesn't know either.
It's so elegant in design.
Yeah, well, it's not elegant. The elegant's found
He was like
Omega.
refitted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
So that's
refitted
why it
to
looks
serve the
elegant.
purpose in Marasidia, didn't
Yeah.
he? Didn't Omega like kill Bahamut? I can't remember. He's involved in Bahamut. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that
You
makes
don't know anything. He did something.
Yeah. They did reverse. Yes, a lot of elegant technology came out of Omega when they found Omega. That's how they.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
That's more likely is that their technology looks like him.
Yeah.
That's
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
I know I ask this every year, but I have to. Is the game still its own universe? It's not connected to any other game universes. A classic question. At this point, he laughs. But that's one of those things. Yoshida-san has said in some interviews... Yoshida-san has said in some interviews where you get this question, is the lore set first and then you build quests of that? Well, we have the core lore. Yoshida's thing is that writers should be able to do whatever the fuck they want. He's really... Did he have a drink
Yeah.
before this?
Is he?
Yeah, do what they want.
Do whatever the fuck they want and not have to worry about the lore. Then they take that to the lore team, and it's the lore team's job to make it fit with the rules we have.
Okay.
Yoshida-san wants to give the complete freedom to his writers to be able to create anything they want and not be restricted. They won't want to think, I have to do this, but then there's this weird rule about ether. It's the lore team's job to make that fit with the rules that we have. If you look at how ether works in 1.0 versus now, that's pretty much how it goes. But no, it's not connected to the Final Fantasy XII universe or the Dragon Quest universe. I mean, we did have that crossover. So, we are in our own contained universe.
It's nice that he's forcing 12 in there as well. Just to put that all to rest.
Put that to Reese.
Yeah,
Reese's Pieces.
Reese is one of the leading experts on Final Fantasy lore. So take that, Reese.
Like they already confirmed this in like some other reviews or something.
It's a nice reminder. You won't find Shinra in you won't find Midgard in somewhere out there.
We will, but it won't be the same Midgard.
Right.
It'll be Garlemald.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Ruby.
Damn it, Ruby.
Here's a big one. Where's Mikote lore at these days? That's a race that we don't really have a lot of lore about. There were lots of hints that Marasidia might have been involved, and those references were pruned away, and now it's all about Ilsabard. What's the truth? Koji. First off, you have so many eras. You talk about them coming over the land bridge, but then that's very recent. In general, people are migrating everywhere. Think about it in terms of Earth. Where were people and how did they move over thousands of years? Now multiply that, over 1,000 years. Now multiply that by 6 eras. Shit happens here in Eorzea. A calamity. It gets too hot. It gets too cold. People move away to a place that's better. They break off there and come back. So the 5th umbral comes and ice starts appearing and disappearing all over. And you can get to and from different places that you couldn't before. Sometimes even the southern islands where the lava fell from. The Mikote are coming back from Ilsabard and they're coming back from Marasidia. But they got there in different time periods. They converge on places that are rich in ether, because that's what it's all about. Places that have more ether are going to be more lush, be better for growing crops and surviving, and there's going to be animals. And we explain that everybody ends up converging in Eorzea because that's where the best ether is, and that's where you're going to have the best hunting. The Mikote, especially being hunters, are going to follow where the best animals are, and that's where it's all rich. You go beyond that, and things start losing that. There's still ether everywhere in the world, but there's the rich places where people converge. It's like the Mesopotamian thing where you have the 2 rivers there, the rest is desert. People are going to come back here, even if they get shut out by a flood, they'll come back at some time. Everybody wants more lore on this stuff. The problem is that we have all these stories to tell, but then we go to new areas and we focus on that stuff. The writers want to write about new stuff, and the players want to hear about the new shiny thing in front of them. But at the same time, people want to know about the Aura and the Mikote or the Duskwights. We haven't heard anything about them. We just know they're all moody and dark. But then, of course, Yoshida and the quest team have all these new areas. I just had this talk with Oda-san. A lot of questions for the Q&A were asking about races and clans. A big thing is that more people over here in North America are hardcore role players. They want to know about the characters they're playing. They become those characters. It's not as deep in Japan.
You heard it here first, guys. It ain't that deep.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree. Well, I know what he means by people wanting all the new stuff, but I want more Eorzea. I don't care about Arthur that much.
If anything, the popularity of the lore books should contradict this, right? Because that's full of old lore that people want to read about.
Yeah, we want Eorzea. Interesting that it's also the most ether-rich place and all that, though, because it's not like the world's barren outside of it.
No, but remember there was that whole Silverchair Skies thing, which like blew ether all over Eorzea.
Right.
So I think that made it rich, and that's why races started migrating to like even more to Eorzea. But Eorzea has, I think, historically always been rich in ether, which is why it's become such a big, important place on Hydaelyn.
So it just sucks in Doma, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is because Doma is pretty, it's nice.
It's okay. It's not. He's not saying, like he said, it's not barren everywhere else.
Yeah,
but it's richer in Eorzea.
Yeah.
We just have to take his word for it, I guess. I mean,
is that why all the calamities?
Oh, that could be
happen here as well, rather than worldwide.
Yeah, maybe. Right. On the official forums, you went back for some unanswered Q&A questions at one point. You talked about how Bahamut was rematerialized by his summoning. A dead thing goes into the live stream. It gets blended into pieces. And then people pray, and that beacon draws and reassembles them somehow. Even though it's never really that thing again. So, Ysayle. She reaches out. She summons Shiva, allegedly. But Rosvelger alleges that he ate Shiva, and that she's been with him the whole time. Where's Shiva? Good question.
Shiva got bored, that's what.
Yeah, there was some good old vor in there. Well,
romantic.
That's how you bang a dragon.
No.
Koji says, well, yes, the eating part is still there. But remember how we once talked about how there could be multiple Ifrits. You're just assembling pieces from the ether and forming them into something. There are parts of that being and parts of just regular energy in that core. It's not all their pieces. It's some of their memories, and then you're filling out the rest. It's kind of like when they find some Tyrannosaurus bones and have to recreate the rest with plaster copies. It's not the actual being, and then it dies off, and a little piece of it, while it's existing in that form, goes back into the live stream. So, yeah. That makes sense.
Because because primals are just what you believe. That's why Garuda looks like an Ixali woman rather than an elegant general.
Yes. But there's still parts of it. So it's not like... So it has to like come from something. Again, this feeds into that discussion we had about the 12. But we're not going to go there because we'll just sit here all night talking about that. But
there's potential.
Okay, when did Xenos gain resonance? Even when he's at Koji, I can't say anything about Xenos. I can't say anything about Xenos. Moving on.
Okay, thanks,
so
Koji.
Yeah, Xenos obviously going to play a big part in the story. So that's 4.5 potential spoilers. All of the Asian overlords received names from the Final Fantasy XII Scions of Light. However, there were only 12 Scions, and we've got 14 overlords. Have you come up with 2 new names? Koji. I actually can't say anything about Asians either. Okay. I love that he's bringing this up as well. Remember, if you've watched this show before, we've brought this up multiple times, but he's saying this now.
This is your question, dude.
Yeah. Other than they're not supposed to have shadows. Asians are not supposed to have shadows, and they are not supposed to have shadows. That's all I'm going to say. That's what Asian means. They're supposed to be shadowless. That's why I chose that word 12 years ago. Gamerscape asks, do you think they would ever go back and fix this in the old scenes if they found a way to make it work? Koji, I don't think so. Not at this point. I think the development team wants to pretend it's a made-up word that has no meaning, and they want me to forget it. But I always remind them that Asians aren't supposed to have shadows. What you see is not a shadow, it's the shadow of their clothes. If you saw a naked Elidibus walking around, he would not have a shadow. There we go. Official answer. So, Travanchet was naked? Those aren't clothes. That's body paint. Also, I don't know about the names.
He's so angry. This is like
He would be, though.
I love that that this hurts him too. So it's nice to know that he acknowledges this as well. And it's not his fault. It's an actual fuck up.
So it's their clothes, guys.
Yeah, it's their clothes.
It's their clothes.
Yeah. And the 1.0 Asians wore body paint.
That's sexy.
Yeah, that is.
Hell
Wow.
yeah. It gives a totally new spin on those cutscenes. How do you feel about them? Do you think they'll never change it? They can't change it now. I guess there's no need to, because they've had shadows since A Realm Reborn, and 1.0 is technically,
It's not something you notice, though.
Not unless you know. Like, I think about it every time I see Asians now, because I know they're supposed to have no shadow. And I thought that was like going to be a plot point in the expansion, because you could like tell by the shadow who's like Asian or not.
I also don't know how it's supposed to play out when they're possessing people. Do the possessed versions have shadows, or do them taking on new forms? Do they have shadows?
Oh, that's a good question.
Not.
I
think it's easier to just have shadows.
Yeah.
It is kind of a weird like lore rule, like shadows only, but only sometimes.
I think when they're
and
possessing,
clothes.
yeah, that's true. But I think when they're possessing, the body will have a shadow, because it's a human body, right?
But then, what are their original forms? Just the like cure ones with the masks? Is that
I
what
think
they
that's
actually
what
look
they
like?
look like.
Yeah.
Well, in 1.0 they look like fucking husks. They look like the
Asian Prime.
Asian Prime that you
Which is
fight in.
cool.
That one's cool, yeah.
So,
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
no.
Yeah, not anymore.
Knowing
It's
Not
very
anymore.
superficial. It's fine.
knowing that Koji Fox at least acknowledges it and it bothers him as well makes
Yeah.
it better, in a way. Okay, next question. Are the astrologians really taking ether from distant stars? They talk about Shatoto, like she did this big thing learning how to pull environmental ether. But stars? Koji, that's supposed to be how it works. You have your mages that draw from the ambient energy from nature. The mages, that's white mage. The mages that draw their own ether from within. The combination of two. And then someone asked about astrologian and where they're getting it. The Japanese is vague and says something like, from the heavens. I wanted it to be a little more specific to where you could work it out scientifically. I didn't want to be like, it's magic. Everything else in the game has a definite reason. Look at it in terms of how even a faraway planet or sun will still have a minute amount of gravitational pull and effect on other planets. It's kind of the same thing where ether, even though it's far, still has traces that astrologians learn to find, pull, and enhance so they can use the energy.
So it's basically ambient ether just from really far away for some reason.
For faraway stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not much else to say about that, I guess.
It's cool, I guess, that they can do that. You'd think they'd be more powerful.
Yeah. The other planets are like, what? You're not pulling enough ether from your own planet? You gotta pull ours too? Koji, maybe there's this whole thing where all the planets are like, goddamn Heidelin, you guys keep stealing ether from us. Maybe that's what's causing the calamities. Just astrologians from other stars draining the planets.
fans just keep cursing us. You know, like,
Yeah.
fucking. I hope they have 13 calamities in a row. Stealing our ethers.
Any information on the language Asians have in common, or why they have a language in common? Please look forward to it.
Ooh,
Ah.
that's something I've never really thought about or thought I ever wanted.
Mm.
But obviously they're going to go into it. That's
Yeah, yeah. When we zoomed in on Shadowhunter's belt, we see 2 red masks. Are we meant to assume that he perma-killed them, or that he only killed their hosts? Koji, that's a good question. Please look forward to it.
I assume perma.
Oh, wow. And we try so hard to eliminate questions that would end in please look forward to it. Koji, we're getting to this point where for so long, especially regarding 1.0, we got better about it in 2.0. We don't want to leave loose ends. It's starting to be very focused. Yoshida and Oda-san wants to go back, and this confirms our theory, goes back and tie those up because people keep asking us about them. I think that's one of the goals with future content coming up, hopefully over the next year. They don't want as much dragging behind us anymore, and they want to bring conclusion to a lot of these storylines. Again, hopefully it'll be the end for One Piece, and we'll finally find out what the One Piece is. It's friendship.
I watch anime too, Koji Fox.
Interesting. That was my first reaction to the trailer, that this is like the end of all of the loose ends, hopefully, of 1.0's remnants.
That makes it sound sad, though, in a way.
No, it doesn't. It feels good.
Like it's the end.
No, because he said, first of all, he said expansions, but I also think that if this is not Yoshi-P's last expansion, he wants a new story that's wholly his. Like, that's not like held back by story complications from 1.0. Because literally that's all we've had so far. Around Reborn was just one big 1.0 blowjob. It was just 1.0, like trying to piece together, rebuilding the game, while still sort of having the storyline, like kind of. It was Around Reborn stories all over the place. Then Heavensward
was part
like
of it as
Yoshi-P, like Yoshi-P said, Heavensward was not something they had promised. It was something 1.0 had promised.
Yeah,
Ishgard.
that will go to Ishgard at some point.
So they had to do Heavensward, and then I guess.
And then Stormblood was the same.
Stormblood, Al Amigo, which they kind of were tired of that. Then it seems like, and they went, let's just throw in Authard and make our own thing there as well. And now this one
is the same. Garlemald.
Yeah.
Asians.
So I think we just had like the Asian threat hanging overhead for so long at this point. It's like we should probably
it's time
do something about it.
Yeah. I feel like it's time to finish this. So
I mean, I'm totally fine with them wrapping up this long arc and starting a new one.
Yeah.
With Yoshi-P around.
Yeah.
I'm scared of him leaving.
I'm scared of him
getting loads of really bad stuff.
We got Mr.Atma now. It's fine.
Yeah,
but he looks he's evil.
He's a nice fellow.
He's evil.
Everything bad is only bad because Yoshi-P told him to make it bad.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll like become producer and director and just try and make
Atma?
up for all the bad things he's done and be like, you can have loads of nice things.
Yeah.
No RNG.
I can see him like being a producer or something, not like a double role thing.
Yeah, but I think if Yoshi-P leaves, they'll make a producer and director role. Because it's.
But he won't leave. It's fine. He's not going to leave. So it's fine.
So far, there's no reason to say that. I'm just saying that it sounds like they want to, at least to me, it sounds like Yoshi-P wants to make an expansion after this. That is a completely different, independent story. That's nothing to do with all of the tethers that we have to 1.0 right now. Right. You said we'd see the heart of Sabik again. What was that again?
The heart of Sabik. I don't even remember what that is.
Let's look it up really quick.
Sabik.
Why does that not ring a?
Ultima Weapons Core.
Oh,
all
right.
Of course, right. You said we'd see. Right. I just immediately saw chat just explode.
You idiot!
You idiot! You said we'd see the heart of Sabik again soonish, and then we didn't see the heart of Sabik again ever. Did it get put off? Did it get moved from somewhere it was meant to be? Is it still out there? Koji, defensive. You got it in the lyrics of the Ultima Orchestrion version. It came back. At this point, it's a question for Oda-san. Who knows? Maybe someone threw it down into a ravine and it's next to one of Nidog's eyes. They'll never find that.
Where it belongs, right?
Yeah,
right
yeah. Speaking of stuff we talked about before that may have fallen through the cracks, do you have any updates on the so-called mysterious primal? There was the idea that right after Gaius took Alamigo, he was going to keep going, but a primal halted his advance.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. It could have happened in 57. Could have happened in 62. Koji, that was related to the whole what lies beneath Silvertear. Yes, something stopped his advance, and then there was the trailer. Beam, tons of primals shooting out, and then there was the seal. What is it sealing? What was going on in there? A lot of this is where the 1.0 story was supposed to go, and there's a lore reason for that. When the calamity happened, it caused a lot of changes to Hydaelyn. Whether that was enough to seal off something that was already sealed, but the seal was getting weak, or that, I don't know. There could be something like that. The hint was that Gaius was stopped for a reason, and that it was a powerful force. There's a presence. It wasn't just Midgard's armor there. It was more of a force. And I can't say anything more for now.
Wow, so I guess we're going to find out, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Oh.
I knew this interview was a bad idea. I'm already a lunatic. I'm already, I've watched the trailer so many times. I'm losing my mind. And now this? There's more? Okay. Oh, God, more 1.0 questions. Oh, they're like 2 more 1.0 questions. Okay. Some things from 1.0. One serious, one humorous. Fans made a big deal out of this old line Minfilia suggested that those who'd beheld the end of the Walker's path seemed to her as though they'd been something either too terrible or too shameful, and that they were traumatized. Should we be worried? I can't remember that.
The end of the Walker's path. I didn't play one.
I can't remember the story.
Isn't this line from?
I'll cover it in Chronicles of a Realm one day, whenever that comes.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you should be worried. This also kind of ties to the presence that stopped Gaius' advance. Again, it's tied into this.
Oh my God!
It would have played out in that direction, and now I don't think it's going to. Oh, I don't even know if that presence is still there. I'd have to ask Oda-san. It all kind of led to the endgame content that was supposed to wrap up the original. God, I want to ask.
He knows what it was.
I need to know that.
He knows what it was and he won't tell us. It was probably Bahamut.
Oh, now he's going to ask about the rune stones. Oh, God. In 1.0, we found those Allagan rune stones, and they had the symbols of the 12 on them. Later, it was said Allag made them before abandoning worship of the 12. That means the Allag... Okay. So you have the rune stones of Menfina, but it has 2 moons. They made that second moon, and way later. What is this? Koji, I have no idea. Maybe it's the moon and its reflection on Silvertear Lake. Let's go with that. It's that now. I don't know.
That's a new lore. Invented on the spot, right there.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, we can talk about the 12
Why did
again.
they?
So the Allagans worship the 12 as well. We didn't talk about that when we discussed
Everyone
the 12.
worshipped the 12.
Yeah. Which, I
Pretty
mean,
much
the
at some
Allagans
point.
is a long-ass time ago.
That's because the 12 are more than just primals.
Well.
Okay, we're not going there. We're done.
Okay.
A lot of information seemed to be chaotically shifting just before the 1.0 release. Right before launch, for example, they said, here's a calendar. We talked about that the other day. And then the game comes out right after. Totally different calendar. Ringing a bell?
That's... Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I had to translate that stuff. Okay, do you have any idea why, with the Eorzean stuff, all of the elemental cycles ended up starting with ice, but with the calamities, it's wind? Koji, no idea. I don't remember if all the calamities, the order, were decided beforehand, or if we had 1 or 2 decided and then we decided to write the lore book. Holy shit, we need to come up with the order for the other ones. I can tell you there is no significance to that. No significance to that so many start with ice, though. So, right. How did the belief in the mother crystal spread so quickly? Everyone's all about the 12, and then we disappear for 5 years and get back to everyone saying, "May you ever walk in the light of the crystal."
Oh,
Koji, it's all Scion propaganda. They're passing out leaflets or something. They want to push the whole mother crystal thing and get that out there. When it comes down to it, there are tens of thousands of people in this world, and most don't know about mother crystals, just like most people don't know that the planet is called Hydaelyn. There are no TVs, there are no science books. It's true, like most of Eorzea is illiterate. We've talked about that before.
That's true.
Close to half of the people are illiterate. A lot of people are still living pre-technology-ish. I mean, there are water clocks and chronometers, and people see how things are powered with ether. But for the most part, people live in shacks, or in these towns where they don't know what's going on. Then, the people you come into contact with seem to know this stuff. We're not letting you talk to the rest of the people that have nothing to say. In a super open world game, we'd have people walking around town like, "I like farming because I need to support my family." But we need to condense it down. Even the cities themselves are, in theory, way bigger, but we need to condense them down. We give it a sense of being huge, but we can only add the people that are going to give you the information you're going to need for the game. We have to ignore the rest, but they're there. So when the 12th Legion comes and it's like 10 guys, is that a cohort? No. There are people there, but it's condensed.
So they're just representations.
They're representations,
not exact numbers.
It's like playing a grand strategy game where 1 million people are represented by one counter.
Yeah. It's interesting. I like how he didn't really touch on the phrase "may you ever walk in the light of the crystal." He kind of twisted it around. He
made it into a joke
at
the start, and then was just like, people are illiterate.
Yeah.
But it's a good question because he's saying everyone is all about the 12, and then they talk about why?
Well,
why does everyone suddenly just believe in Hydaelyn?
Well, they don't, like he's saying, like the mother crystal is like only the people with the echo really know about the mother crystal. Isn't that what it's like? The rest of Eorzea pray to the 12. They know of the 12. Because religion spreads really quickly, but like a crystal like that, it's probably harder to get that through. I don't know.
So, question for everyone: is your character mechanically illiterate or not? You can answer in the chat too.
Mine is not illiterate.
Okay, mine's a smarty pants.
Yeah,
mine's not literate.
I can't speak.
You can't speak.
I don't have a voice, but
she's dumb, deaf, and mute. I
lip flap, and then I do tongue flaps, and then people understand.
I
just don't get it. Which one's Hydaelyn? The mother crystal is obviously real because the people who see it.
Right,
we've seen it.
But the
12.
Yeah, but the 12 is like a religion. Like, no one's...
But they're... Well, yeah, but in the same sense...
The people with the echo have seen the crystal, therefore they believe in the crystal.
Yeah,
the crystal is obviously real. But the 12 is just something that's been passed down through generations. Or has it? We don't know. We shouldn't go into the 12 territory because we'll be gone forever.
We need to know.
But...
avoid the 12 discussion for now.
Yes,
time.
yes. So moving on. So on the copied worlds or shards or reflect. Also, just wanted to say you would never hear I don't think you'd ever hear Merlweb or any of the city-state leaders say, "May you ever walk in the light of the crystal." That's something.
Yeah, that's true.
The
only person you ever really hear say it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
that's definitely like a Scion thing.
Yeah, Louis Soir would say it. Louis Soir would say it a lot, and that's where he even says it in the opening of the game. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal. So it's like a Scion term almost, I think. It's like you're saying, it's Scion propaganda.
What are those people's names? The nerd snail people? Why am I forgetting them?
The nerd people?
The nerd snails, the island place that disappeared.
Val? Val.
Oh, the students of Baldessian.
Students of Baldessian.
Yeah, I feel like they'd probably say it too.
Oh, yeah. Archons probably say it then, because it's Louis Soir said it, and
Just Charlayans in general believe in Hydaelyn rather than the 12?
That's a good question.
But they are just also people.
No, because they also have a patron deity, don't they? They have Thalia.
Yeah, Thalia. But is that just
this is 12 talk. We have already done 12.
We need to know.
We can. Yeah, but soon we might. So on the copied worlds or shards or reflections or what have you, do they experience all the calamities that we on the source do, or just one that deletes their world? Koji, I can't talk about this. You'll find out soonish. But go ahead and speculate the calamities. It's the Asians that are trying to do this, and their focus is on this world, the source. Take it to mean whatever you need it to mean. Oh, dude, that kind of makes... So if Heidelin breaks, the shards disappear.
That makes
Is that
sense.
what he's saying?
Well, the Asians want to do the rejoining, don't they?
Yeah.
They want to
Which
smash
brings
them
all
together.
of them back
Yeah,
into
they want to
one
bring them
instead
all...
of 14.
So if the source dissipates, does that bring everything together again? Do you have to break the source to unite everything? It's kind of difficult.
Well, wasn't there something to do with each time there's a calamity, they get closer or something? Or they have to do a certain number of calamities for the rejoining to happen. So don't the worlds like jump back in? How many worlds are left? Or are they all? Is there still 14? Because I always imagine it like every time there's a calamity, one of the other worlds like jump back in.
Each calamity rejoins the shard into the source.
That's how I thought it was. So once they've done all the calamities they want to do, it'll be the rejoining, which is when Zodiac can... Where does he come from?
That means that 6 shards have already been rejoined?
Yes.
That's probably not a good time.
Ooh.
Might not be fun.
No, that doesn't sound like fun.
Is one of those shards that's been rejoined the Warrior of Darkness's shard?
No.
Or is there another one that's been just...
Because they wouldn't be able to reach us.
Because they went back to their world,
went back,
didn't they?
Yeah.
Why? That's horrible, that is. It's death.
You know, if it was like, I'll help you guys, Ruby, please.
Yeah. Because once the shard goes back into the source, it's gone. Like they're just wiped away, right? That's just gone.
Yeah, they were on the original, the farthest, I guess the furthest away one.
Yeah.
So, need to know.
All of this is probably going to get answered in the expansion. We have... Oh no, Rolo.
We were talking about this as well.
We have an Eorzean unit for distance and one for weight. Is there one for temperature? All the alchemists...
I need to know!
All the alchemists talk about specific temperatures. And what are they measuring it in? Huh, that's true. Wow, Koji says. Gamerscape says, I've been calling it Fons. Koji laughs. Celsius, Colvin. I'd have to ask Oda-san. That's good. We should have one. I don't think it's ever come up. We'll do it. I'm going to write that down. That's an awesome idea. If everything is in backward-ass American unit, is it Fahrenheit? Koji, it wasn't American, but the old British imperial system. I think the idea came from the original. I come from the original lead on 11, Richard Honeymoon. Honeywood. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about our honeymoon, Mala.
Richard Honeywood.
Honeywood, yeah. I don't know who that is. He's the original lead. Oh, he's the lead translator on 11, I guess. And he came up with the ilms and the fulms and the yalms and the moms, and he said it was from the royal measurement of onces and ponces and things like that. So it wouldn't be Fahrenheit, it would be Celsius. No. What did they use? Hot with an E? Hot and cold.
Really? Was that really what they used?
I don't know. We'll have to find out and we'll match it. But it's not supposed to be American. It's supposed to be British.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
That's your fault, Milo.
It is technically, but your fault for not switching over.
Yeah.
Well, it's in the vault. It's in the vault. I'll close it. It's closed. I'll have to check that out. When did temperature measurements become a thing? How long ago did they have thermometers? I know what I'm looking up after this interview. But yes, I'm going to ask Oda-san. Maybe Iwao-san already thought of this, and it's in one of those documents from 12 years ago. We're still finding stuff. We have the new lore book with the Saints. That was all wait, the Saints? Are the Saints in the book, Mela? It was all pre 1.02. Yeah. One of the first things I did in like 06 or 07 is when those were written up, and they never made it anywhere. It took a second lore book 12 years ago to get that out. I remember the saints.
Saint?
Yeah, Saint Mosian is a saint.
God, yeah, of course.
Oh,
We don't know anything about them, do we?
No, because it was pre 1.0. It was. I don't think it was ever put into lore. That's very interesting.
Crack open that book. It's in there, guys.
Yeah. Also, how did one become a saint? I don't even know how that works. Do they have like an... Well, to the 12... No,
go on. Say what you were going to say. Say what you were going to say.
Do the 12 have like an archbishop? Like, someone has to decide who's being sainted. Do they have like a... I guess Ishgard has a pope. Is he the one who's saint?
He doesn't anymore. We killed him. Well,
technically he's dead now, but... interesting.
But he didn't want to become ascended like a saint, sort of. He wanted to become the reincarnation of
what's his face?
Oh yeah, King Thordan.
Yeah. So he's a king rather than.
But he was a pope.
But did they become ascended
and
join the 12, or are they just called saints after their death because they did good?
I think that's what it is. I think that's how it is. It's not. Yeah, they're not divine. Well, saints are supposed to be divine, but they're human. They've done good. Why did it take so long to get the guild leave saints? Oh, the saints are on the guild leave plates as well, of course.
Yeah.
Out there. Koji, it's one of those things. They were reserved for the guild leaves, which were supposed to be a major thing in 1.0. So we had all this background stuff for it. Then Yoshida comes in and says, "This is not a major system. This should be on the side, and we shouldn't have a focus on it."
Good Yoshida.
That's so him. And they just left it in for experience leveling for your third or fourth job or whatever. So while you still have the guild leaves and you can write flavor text for them, there were no more focus for the saints. We got to throw some bits in. We had the Church of Saint Adama Landama and the saint that walked up through the nail and collapse. But it was one-off stuff that we could use for flavor. It's hard to bring all of them because we had like 50 of them. There were some cool ones that didn't even make it into this one.
Oh my god.
I mean...
50 saints.
Again, you can't even imagine how big leaves were supposed to be. There was like this groundbreaking system.
Main content, dude. Radiant Quest. Just the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be bad if they didn't have just the whole...
restrictions.
All the restrictions on it.
Yeah.
And also if they had like triple XP.
Well, in 1.0, leaves were good. In 1.0, they were good.
Bring that back.
Except for the fucking dumb restrictions, like only doing 8 every 48 hours or whatever.
Yeah, what's all that about? Why would you get main content and restrict it to 8 every 2 days?
Don't play the game. Don't play it too much.
There was a way you could cheese it. Like if you had a friend, you could do 8 each. You could link leaves, so you'd have 16 leaves, and you'd still get full.
Did people do like link shells where they all just...
Yeah, and this was before you had party size restrictions. You could be like 16 people or whatever. There you could be like a really big party, and you could do that all day. You just do a lot of leaves. So there were ways. People found ways to do it. The original King Thordan had his knights 12, and one of them threw him into a how do you even say that word?
Chasm.
Can't believe that's the word to stop me. Do we know which one, Koji? Who threw him? I'm going to ask Oda-san that as well. That's a good question. Who threw Thordan into chasm? Okay. In the game, he's a character. In the game, they've gone over a few times how a calamity works. There are a bunch of disturbances. It blows out a barrier. Is that how it works? Or is it one interpretation of how it works? Some fans are even putting forward the theory that Hydaelyn is eating the shard worlds and leaving it out of her side of the story.
Oh my god, that's a good theory.
Koji with a shocked laugh. Oh man. The official answer, at least for now, which is believed by most of the people in Eorzea experiencing and studying what's happened, is that it's about the disturbances. Too much ether is drawn out from the planet, something breaks while that's happening, and while it's broken, it allows shit to happen and things go crazy. Then you get this period afterwards where the planet is healing itself to prevent that from happening again. Which is why calamities don't repeat. I think we talked about that before. But yeah, that's why you don't
which
get
is
the
why
same
when they
calamity.
realized they needed 13, they
Yeah.
thought, oh god, how are we going to sort this out?
Ever since we started getting hints about the game's cosmology and about Zodiac and such, sometimes rather than talking about darkness and the interdimensional rift, they seem to name drop the void instead. Is that intentional? Koji, that's more of a misinterpretation. We're throwing in little bits of misinterpretation. The void was originally... we don't know where it comes from. There was no information as early as 10 to 15 years ago for most people. That's why it's void sent. They didn't know. They're obviously not from this planet. They can't be from this planet. We're going to create something we call the void. This is before people actually learn that the void is actually a shard that has lost all its light, and now you have these beings that need ether, and they break through to suck out the ether of Hydaelyn. So sometimes the void is still used in the sense of beyond our ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's confirmed.
Yeah, so the void is... I'm guessing the void is like the bottommost shard, and the Warrior of Darkness is Light World is the top one.
Yeah.
And they balance out somehow.
And both still haven't been smashed together back to the original shard.
No.
Right.
So...
Do you think they want the Void World to go join back to Summon Zodiac?
Well, they want all of them, so...
Yeah, they want all.
Why
so.
do they need them all? I don't understand how Zodiac works.
I don't know, but I guess, I mean, religious fanaticism. I don't know. Maybe that's just what they think. Like, once that's done, he will come.
That might not even happen.
Yeah. So whenever they use the void, it's just because they don't know what else to call. They don't know where it's from. That's interesting, because we talked about this like a few episodes back. We talked about where the void actually was, and it's not an actual place. It is an actual place, but the void isn't like a real... The void can mean from that lightless shard, or just we don't know. That must be from the void.
Void sense can be aliens, confirmed, basically.
Yeah. So even from an ASEAN, you can't really be sure when we're talking about the cosmic void versus the philosophical void. There are times that it overlaps, I would think, and you get that sense. We like the overlapping of terms to create a little bit of fuzz. I hate how games just give you 100% correct information all the time. That never happens in the real world. There's always a little bit of misinformation in there. You hear it and believe it. Then all these people are saying, it is this though. Maybe this is wrong and this is this.
That's a good way of making the game though.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because it gets us discussing things. That's for sure.
It's better just to not know sometimes. It's a bit more interesting, you know?
It's also easier to retcon and change stuff, like, because it was always a little fuzzy, so they can be like, no, let's just adjust that a little bit.
I know what you mean, Ron, but I want to know 100% of everything.
You can't, sorry. Use your imagination. It's up to you.
No!
Oh, no. From the development angle until now, everything was always presented as so mysterious. What are the 12? Who knows? What are the elementals? Who knows? Do we know what the elementals are yet? Oh, why did you ask
talk about the 12. That's the 12.
Who knows? Koji says. So we have all of this for years and years. There was just this big mystery. Then we go over to Othard, one moon in Othard, and it's like, here's the auspices and the kami, and it's all real. What? Koji, that's what they believe. It's all about the belief system over there. I think they wanted to do that to make it that it's so ingrained in that society that they've made it real by believing it to be so, and it is, because we have auspices all over the place, all over the oh my god, all over the place. I couldn't. Okay, wow. In the Warring Triad arc, so he skipped the 12.
He completely skipped the 12. I think he knew. He's already tried getting things about the 12 and all that, and he thought, I'm not going to bother. He thought he'd go in for the elementals. Might be able to get that. He didn't get it.
In the Warring Triad...
He's not giving anything away.
No, he can't. He obviously can't.
Of course he can.
In the Warring Triad arc, Regula von Hydrus summons this tiger thing, and it starts using Arcanist abilities. Is that a hint about something to come, or was it just a cool Magitech mimicking magics thing? Koji, I don't know. I'd have to ask for that one. I have to ask that one. A lot of times, there are reasons. Oda-san will work with the effects team and let them know what kind of effect to use. If it's not something being used over and over again by lots of different enemies, there are usually reasons. I don't know the reason for this one. I'll leave that in the unknown list for now.
Might just be asset reuse.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Gamerscape asks in the next question: in the new lore book, you release the whole Far Eastern alphabet, Hingen. Is it based on anything? What's it like trying to build that? Koji says that the Far Eastern alphabet was all Oda-san. I think they based it on regular Japanese characters. So it's kind of like a Yorcian alphabet where we used English, and where if you look really close, you can kind of see what it is and where it comes from. They wanted to do a similar type of thing with the Hingen as well by basing it off Japanese. You can probably read what's going on there, and there are hints in there. Aside from this is written by Anonymous. Aside from an extra weekly spreadsheet from me, Anonymous, what was different about making this lore book compared to the first one? Koji, in theory, last time it was a crunch because we were doing patchwork and also prepping for the next expansion, all while doing the lore book. It was like, there's no way, we only have 5 months. So this time, they told us about it way in advance. Last year is when we first heard about it. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to have all this extra time. We're going to start writing here. And, we're going to start writing here. That's going to give us even more time. I won't have to translate too much in that core period. We're going to be done. We're going to have months. And then, of course, everyone gets busy, and the first text I get is literally 5 months before the due date, which is exactly the same as it was for the first lore book. We're not going to read the rest of this lore book thing, because it's kind of just about the lore book. Right. That's the interview. That's Gamerscape.
Okay.
We'll post.
Very good interview, Gamerscape.
It was. Thanks.
Yeah, good job.
Really good. Thank you for that.
Lots of questions answered.
Many more created.
It's. I just want to talk about the 12, but we cannot. Let me. Can we post the link in chat to that article?
I already posted it earlier.
Oh, you have? Okay. If you're watching on demand, link is in the description. Right, let's just jump into the Dengeki interview with Yoshi-P. Also, before we move on, I just want to say Koji Fox is the best. He's the best. Even if he can't answer all the questions, he's the best. Right, there was a Dengeki interview with Yoshi-P, and the reason we're talking about it here is because it's about Eureka. And it's actually pretty in-depth. Also, I don't think I put the link to that in there. So that's interesting.
I'll try and find it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It's been translated by... huh?
Oh, and there's a translation. Yeah, you've just not done it as the X.
Oh, right. The translation is done by Ram on Discord.
Hi, Ram.
This interview will contain slight spoilers in the Eureka storyline, so if you don't want to get spoiled on Eureka's magnificent story, don't watch.
I love their tiny little bottles, the tiny little water.
There's a picture. I'm not going to be complete. Okay, I'm going to be Woolhead. So there's like a picture of them sitting, and they have tiny little pee bottles. It's Yoshi-P and Mr.Atma.
Who looks very ill.
Saiki Nakagawa. And it's basically chronicling like how they started with Eureka and how it like developed. And it's interesting.
Okay, it's posted in chat, guys.
Okay, it's in chat if you're watching on demand. Links in the description. How did the Forbidden Land Eureka how the Forbidden Land of Eureka was built up? Please tell us what was going on that led up to developing the Forbidden Land Eureka. At the beginning, we didn't really have a specific plan about it other than wanting to develop a massive player content since the production of 4.0 began. Either the content on its own or part of broader content. It all started when we were looking into recapturing the experience of the first-gen MMO like exploring while killing monsters that spawned.
Killing a series of monster spawns that diadem exploration touched upon in the past, while coming up with a system that would allow players to party up and change whatever they want within the instance.
That diadem exploration did not have. ultimately something that players outside of the rules of Final Fantasy XIV.
It was a pretty long sentence.
That went on for a while. It read better in my head when I put this into the show notes yesterday. I'll say that much.
It is fine.
Okay, does it get better? It was just a very long sentence.
You just have to break it up.
Along with other reasons, this led to developing the Forbidden Land Eureka. Foremost reason was about the lore in between Eureka and the Labyrinth of the Ancients that we had been wanting to revisit and wrap up sometime after 4.0. However, it seemed difficult to revisit since the storyline on the Labyrinth of the Ancient was already finished by the time we were thinking about the Forbidden Land Eureka.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. That would have been interesting. It kind of makes sense really too, cool. Because Eureka is from 3, so...
Yeah. Not a self-contained too, so it feels like things actually are part of each other. It's a tiny section, and that's it.
Yeah,
so that would have been neat. But
even outside of that, we wanted to use Eureka in any way possible. I requested Mr. Oda to build lore around that by establishing the connection that Eureka equals the Isle of Val, since we still had the lore about the disappearance of Isle of Val untouched, and it could be resolved in one shot together.
Cool.
Another reason was that both of us developers and players of 14 were falling into a sort of mannerism about the whole weapon upgrading content. We already had 2 contents like that via Gathering Point and strengthening our weapons, with many playable content available with many playable contents available in 14. Eventually, these contents, lots of contents, started to compete for players' time and effort investments. Players had to choose the content they wanted to play within their permitted time. For an example, playing Savage Raid, weapon upgrading, exploring around. Now people have little space and time to put on their plate more.
Yeah, that one didn't work.
that one.
Most of it's okay.
We get the idea.
And he was right though.
He was right.
Well,
yeah.
And that's what I've been saying.
So he thought, people. There's too much content in the game, and people don't have enough time to do it all. So let's give them one content that takes up all their time, and then they can't complain.
Yeah. And make it bad.
We brought up a discussion about how we could combine the exploration and weapon upgrading together instead of spreading our content too vastly to resolve the possible content confliction against each other. At least that's when I started to discuss until Mr.Atma rose. I will do it! Well, we still didn't have anyone who wanted to take charge of it. Mr. Atma often helped the producer of the Diadem Exploration, at the time developed by a different producer with the Monster Designer team. He probably thought to himself that we could have done much better, and also he was a core Final Fantasy XI player as well. In other words, he wanted to go boldly into it. I simply replied, if you could, I would like you to take charge on it then. Starting from that, Mr. Atma took the handle and led the direction of the development, discussing along with game design. along. I was more of an advisor and guidance. I was more of an advisor and guidance whenever Mr. Nakagawa wanted advice or was uncertain about his idea. It is correct to call Mr. Atma the director of Eureka. He had great passion for it, and I believe it came out reflecting all that.
I feel so bad for him. His CV is just black marks everywhere. It's just red pen on everything.
Mr. Atma.
He was told to make Atma's bad, but Eureka seems like
he took charge on this.
Yeah.
He was the lead.
Okay. Question: when I actually got to play Eureka, it felt as if it was a totally different game inside 14. I was surprised, thinking there was no patch like this. Was this originally intended? Nakagawa: to think that, yes, the only concept given to me was creating a sort of miniature content that would let you delve into the classic MMO experience. As a heavy player of 11 myself, I set myself a goal in the development to help modern players experience some of the enjoyable things 11 provided.
Thank you, so nice.
Thank you. So I started to go back and think about what was fun back in 11. Well, we just waited for NMs to spawn, hunting it with everyone and leveling all the time. It was more than just chaos when it came to NMs. Hunting while keeping track of your schedule too. Laughs. Ha ha! Well, we intentionally adjusted all that to fit modern Final Fantasy XIV better.
Bless him.
How do you feel so far about his statements, Rollo? How do you feel this is like good advertisement for 11?
This makes 11 sound like shit. Like, this is the worst possible game ever. This is why I play Phantasy Star instead of 11.
It's just like an old man who's like, it was better back in my day, so I've made it all fun like it was in my day.
It's weird because he also says that, like, all we did was sit and wait for NM to spawn. It's like, wow, fun.
That's not true, right? You're just saying that as a joke, right?
No, it's true.
No, that is what you did.
Oh,
I once had to camp for like 6 hours for an NM to spawn. I remember that vividly.
This fucking...
We had to sit
older
on
MMOs,
shifts.
it was weeks.
We would, there were there were spawns like that in 11 too. Like, I remember I had a link shell where we were like on shifts. So I had like shift from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Like, I would sit and wait.
4 hours?
Yeah.
Weren't you like in middle school when you were playing 11?
Yeah, but he didn't have a social life. He played
I played 11, obviously, so I had no friends. So I would sit.
Well, you had in-game friends.
Well, yeah, friends.
Real friends.
But yeah, that was legit. That.
Good luck with that 11 stream, by the way.
It's not like that anymore. That's the point. 11 isn't like that anymore.
Yeah, it's not fun anymore, Ronno.
No, it's not fun anymore. They kind of adapted over time, although it's still pretty old. But it's not, you know.
It was great when the bombs were falling, so I made it more like when the bombs were falling.
What did you do to differentiate from Diadem Exploration, as both are similar massive player content? Well, our minds were more about recapturing the good parts, about the classic, I keep repeating this phrase, about the classic MMO experience, so we didn't have Diadem Exploration much to our mind.
He's just saying it's bad.
We simply explored...
likes 11 is not allowed to work on this game anymore. if you're on the team, get off. I don't want it.
We simply explored and acknowledged what was good and bad about the Diadem Exploration and reflected that onto Eureka.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you could tell us what was good and bad about it. Let's talk about Diadem now. In the beginning, the Diadem Exploration started off as, feel free to do whatever you want. And then, maybe it's too much freedom. And then later, we will give you a little bit of guidance for the progression. The Diadem Exploration couldn't make a good impression on any of these. So, he just said that. It didn't work. When I learned that, we decided to make Eureka to have ways that open up as you go, rather than picking one way or another. Final Fantasy XIV battle contents actually don't really have much freedom to it, and fun lies in their puzzle-like goals. Eureka reversed that and was created in a way that it gives you more freedom as you explore deeper and further. I'm not sure if that worked out, but I feel like it became an interesting piece of content. Interesting content. It became interesting content.
I'll say that it did work out, because the higher level you are in any Eureka content, the more fun it is.
Yes.
When you're low level and leveling, it sucks. But when you're like the best and you're doing 100,000 damage,
when you get like 99999, you break the damage meter.
That is fun.
That's fun, but
why'd you make the leveling so shit?
The path.
Well,
there,
I know. I also like how the one good thing about Diadem, which they only managed to do in the last iteration, was being able to mount up without unlocking mounting up.
Yeah.
And they thought, well, Eureka will make them do all of it on foot before they can ride a little bit faster. It's like, it doesn't make
At least you don't have to. Well, you still have to do the quests, so it's technically the same almost as like finding the ether currents in a way, but it just takes longer.
So,
last time we had an interview with Mr. Yoshida, he said something along the lines of, Eureka is our experiment field. Players certainly got the impression that it was different from any other content. This person is like really like careful.
Very angry.
It's angry, but it's careful. It's not actually saying it outright. Yoshida says, we didn't really expect specific impressions, but we were surprised about how they explored the ways of enjoying the content. I never expected things like... What does that mean?
That's the Japanese character for no. It doesn't mean no, but that you pronounce it no.
Means
like
hands up when people shout Eureka
because it looks like a raised arm.
Oh, all right, I see. Say, tribe thing. Okay. I thought to myself, these people have no initiatives, but then seems fun in its own way. He's talking about like the
and then he laughs
chat
because he's
in
just
shout
wasted
chat.
at this point. He can't.
I think he's talking about the fate train, basically.
Oh, the
No
fate
people have no
train,
initiatives.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was easy to party up on the spot since Final Fantasy XIV let players invite. It was easy to party up on the spot since Final Fantasy XIV let players invite to party from shout chat. Probably why. Oh, this is
Why are they calling it a tribe? The tribe.
fate train thing could flourish thanks to Eureka letting players create parties within the instance, something that Diadem Exploration did not have to let the whole fate train thing happen. I must credit this to Mr.Atma. He has the background of system engineering, so developing the system was pretty quick. When Diadem Exploration was under development, I was discussing about the possibility where you can party up within the instance, but Diadem Exploration was too slow in system development. It was so fast, wasn't it? Huh? Mr.Atma said, if this doesn't work, there's no possibility of achieving the goal it was intended for. Instead of telling what players need to do, we foremost made sure that whatever they do would be possible. Okay. Another thing was taking the quest within the instance. To be technical about it, Eureka doesn't really have a quest system. That's true. It gets that, like, oval thing. And there's, like, no quest log, is there? There's no quest log when you do quests. Mr. Nakagawa brought these two ideas together with the programmers and told us that I got an idea how to make these two work. We will work on them now.
What?
There's, you know.
None of that bit makes much sense.
That last
to me,
bit
but
doesn't
that's
make
fine.
sense. So
I don't know.
yes, the system, it's a big achievement that you can party up within the instance. That's what he's saying, because there's no other content where you can do that within a duty.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they put a lot of work into that part, at least.
Yeah.
Get it working.
Yeah,
Some improvements need to be made still. But
for sure.
Yeah.
First time I entered the instance all by myself, and finding myself in a party with everyone else was surprising. It was a different experience for sure, and that kept us really busy since the development was before the 4.0 announcement.
Wow.
Yeah. We
So
hope.
it's the 4.0, yet they just put that long doing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
We hoped to introduce Eureka in patch 4.1, but we had many works to finish for 4.0. We ended up with patch 4.25 instead to make sure that the content was more fully developed, even if it meant delaying the release. I suppose Eureka showcases the charm of first-gen MMO experience because the system was put with so much effort. Was there anything that you would say this is a success in any recreation of those charms?
No.
Death penalty had mixed opinions, but I'm glad to have it implemented.
It's not mixed opinions. It's no one wants to lose their XP.
Then don't die.
Whoa,
That's the
Oh my God.
That's the charm of old MMOs. Don't die.
I mean,
there were shouts for
race.
race. I mean, it gave red mages and white mages and healers like the biggest like ego trip, because now everyone was shouting for race, which is very rare in the overworld.
And it made every other class irrelevant.
Yeah, shout was a big thing in Eureka, so I think definitely opened the experience that you wouldn't get into with other battle contents in 14.
Yeah.
Yoshi-P. That death penalty thing was something Mr. Atma asked about in the beginning. I really wish we had death penalty in. So I answered, then let's get on with it. Back and forth. After all that, he came to me in the midst and he was like, would it really be okay? Like, maybe we shouldn't do it. Yoshi continues. It was only once. I told him the development played the whole idea of suspense of that, and you will have to go back to the drawing board if we remove it. Please just go with that.
This is like weeks before release.
Yeah.
Like, please just come on.
It wasn't the matter of how severe the penalty was, but how well it would create the suspense. I guess he's meaning like the sense of danger in the overworld.
He probably originally wanted you to like start from level 1, and Yoshi's like,
Yeah.
no, Mr.Atma. No.
So I helped him to decide whenever he was unsure about it. I told him, if everyone hates it, they're gonna blame me, so feel free to keep the death penalty in.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. I remember that for sure, he replied. Put it in, instantly, he replied.
Well, I'm sorry, whoa.
That was a good night for Mr. Atma. The suspense of death and desperate, sorry, why do I keep like death and desperate wish to get race when you got incapacitated. It was something you could only experience in nowhere else. You could experience nowhere else in 14, but in Eureka.
What a run-around way of saying it.
Yeah, you could always be like,
you
let's
can
just
only
reset.
experience it nowhere else in 14, but in Eureka.
You could always be like, let's just reset in other content.
You can here as well if you've got, if you hate yourself.
Yeah. You can. It really gets on your nerve when you're venturing in dangerous areas when a single death takes 12 million experience away at elemental level 50. I even died 3 times myself while in pursuit of those bunny coffers. All of us are so aggravated with bunnies. Bitter laugh.
Bitter laugh. Oh my god.
Speaking of that, what was the essence of first gen MMO experience both Mr. Yoshida and Mr.Atma expected to experience in Eureka? Atma says, there were several, but the most thing I wanted to see was leaving the players on their own directions within the instance freely. I think Eureka is successful for recreating the old school MMO-like content.
I sort of agree with that.
Yeah.
You can't say it's necessarily fun, but it does feel a bit like
it does what they set out to do.
Yeah.
It feels like an old school MMO, which I wouldn't play.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
But you did it. Good job.
Yeah. With the Forbidden Land Eureka as an experiment field, it seemed that there were many interesting data found, like how do the modern gen RPG communications look like? I don't think we're gonna
what was the
read
question
that.
again?
No, we're leaving it. The answer doesn't make any sense either. Okay, so here's the feedback part. Listening to the voices from Pagos and Animos.
Is this the story part?
This is not story. This is like when the feedback they got.
Oh, okay.
This is the bit we all want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back when the Forbidden Land Eureka Animos was first released, what was the impressions and feedback like? Atma opens. The very first thing we noticed was that much larger numbers of players played in Eureka than we expected. So they already didn't expect a lot of players to do this content. Just... okay. The dev team always pay attention to active players for Eureka, even now. And there are so many players than anticipated. I felt glad to have introduced it. Yoshida, for the first 5 elemental levels, there were players who found the content distasteful, thinking...
Rollo.
This is Rollo. So... yeah, the first 5 elemental levels, there was this player, Rollo, who found the content distasteful, thinking, so boring and no fun, and quit immediately. That's exactly what
Rollo would say.
It's exactly, that's almost the same level, and quit immediately at that point. However, these kind of early level dropouts for like-minded players was expected. We thought that players would need the learning process in slower tempo and will be difficult without it. From the scratch to level 5, we understood that some players would find the old school leveling MMO with focus on hunting on the fields dislikable. In the end, we were thankful for players who dropped out earlier, returning to Eureka after hearing the telltales from the Forbidden Land. Look, which is technically what happened to you, Rollo. You did come back.
Yeah, you're still
I
playing
came back so I can talk about how much I hate it.
Looking back now, Animos had many expectations surpassed, so I don't think there was any aha moments. There was nothing in particular, according to. So they expected the fallout. This was just because it confirms my theory to begin with. They wanted to make this content for specific players, like for players that just wanted the old school feel, and they just don't care about the people that hate it.
How do you go into a piece of content saying people are gonna hate this?
Yeah,
like I know people are always gonna hate stuff.
You know
just
what?
Go in thinking they're gonna hate this.
You know what? I think it's because there's a certain subset of players in 14 that played 11, and they've been on this, like for content like this since 1.0, and it's been constant. And I think they were like, okay, here you go, shut up, and then the rest will just have to deal with it. I don't know.
11 players. Are you satisfied? Are you happy now?
I think a lot of them are. Some aren't. Some are like, because especially for me as well, it's like it's 11, but it's like a little bit vanilla. The fact that you can't like level sync with a party member, like stuff like that is still missing. I don't understand why that's not a thing, but yeah. Players were split in parties for spawning NMs and come together to clear fresh spawned NMs. Was this okay, farming basically. People were farming for NMs to spawn NMs. Was this expected for players to do? Yoshida, that, as Mr.Atma mentioned, it was to implement the whole experience of fun of clearing NMs here and there, but Final Fantasy XIV is 14. Also, our players are 14 players. The classic MMO experience we tried to recreate seemed to be out of reach.
Yeah.
The intense competition is neither good. NMs are essentially made with the basis of fate, but we wanted to make sure everyone in the instance needed to participate to clear. This concern was fulfilled spot on with Mr.Atma's lead. There's a certain sense of flow to it, flow to that, so it went well that both players who partake in summoning and others partaking in clearing distribute fairly well. So farming, distribute. Partaking in clearing, I guess that means farming. I think that's what they're meant.
Yes.
No,
So
wait.
it sounds like
No, summoning is farming, sorry.
Summoning is triggering them, and clearing them is leeching.
Yeah, basically. There's even a picture of people standing around Pazuzu with the glow sticks. We heard from the last we heard from the last interview with Mr. Yoshida that Pegos was developed without the feedback from Animos. Yoshida says yes. Pegos was already close to completion by the time we announced Animos.
Weird again.
Yeah.
It means they could have released it so much earlier.
Yeah. So
I think it's just in the pipeline already, is what they're saying. Like it's too far ahead to have like
close.
It was close to completion
by the time they even announced
Animos. Yeah. So that's
which was at FanFest.
Yeah. So what feedback from Animos were reflected in Pyro's direction in development? So
nothing.
So like he's just said in the question above, like Pegos basically just was released without any tweaks. That's why Pegos is so different from Animos and Pyros. So probably the most was the overdone recreation of the classic MMO experience, even including the parts that made it harsh. Some extremes to the point we thought, will this be okay?
And it wasn't. It wasn't okay, Yoshida.
Compared to Animos, it felt more close to explore and pick a good hunt spot, just like classic MMOs. Atma, absolutely. We kept that in mind throughout. The landscape was heavily inspired from Oregon Mountains from 11, and the size in comparison to Animos was huge. While some players, including myself, enjoyed that, I must apologize right now that many players were greatly stressed out about that. I'm sorry for not fulfilling many players' feedback from Animos.
Yeah, that's right.
Take that L.
Be
Take
sorry.
It.
Yeah. Oh, I think the question with Pyros was supposed to be Pegos, because the questions following this are about Pegos. Yoshi-P, as Mr.Atma said, there was far more adventures that delved into Animos than expected. We initially expected the Eureka player base to be mostly limited to people who are comfortable with the attribute of repetition, or MMO players who are active communications. Like they more social players. Pegos was
trying to say social.
Yeah, Pegos was basically the content that aimed this narrow elite player base to go deeper. It was our fault to not expect that there would be much more casual players along as well.
Pegos is for the elite only, guys.
Yeah, it is. I always view it now as almost, at least I think that was what was their aim. You would have like a scale, and on one end of the scale you have Savage Raiding, and on the other end of the scale you have Eureka, and they're like two extremes on the same scale, but they go different paths. That's how I always view this, and it seems like that's what they were thinking here as well. Animals certainly had an easier time for people who didn't communicate much, like the Fate Train culture. There was certainly the playstyle of go with the flow, but Pegos was different. You had to be on your own, and it seemed more players in the beginning of the patch found themselves difficult to get through it alone. Which was, remember that the first day we went in there.
Yeah.
It was just mass confusion. They've since fixed that. To think now that that seems to be why there were several following hotfixes after taking in feedback from the release, with Pyros coming in now. There seems to be a fresh wave of populations for Animos and Pegos as well. There are also new players who entered Animos because Pyros was released. One of the main reasons seemed to be a new game system like Logos action intrigued many people. Was Logos action supposed to be introduced in Animos? Actually, yes. says Mr. Atma.
Oh.
Prior to 4.0's launch, we had initial plans for Magia board and Logos actions. The latter was only implemented in Pyros.
That would have been totally different experience.
So
It
that
would
was
have probably been fun.
Here's his reasoning, though.
Well, I don't know. We might not have ever gone into Pagos.
That's true. We originally planned to have both in the beginning, but we only focused on the Magia board to have Animos to make Animos simpler. To make it simpler than it could be. To have Animos be simpler.
Yeah.
They wanted to simplify
simple,
Animos, so they didn't add the logo system. That means they could add it now, though.
They could have put it in Pagos.
Yeah, they could.
Retrofit it, please. Make it use it in old areas. Like why?
Yeah.
Why?
So I'm going to skip some questions. Does it mean that the Logos actions will be necessary to progress through the next part of the Forbidden Land Eureka? Yoshi said, at one point, probably, but won't be in the majority. Will it be mandatory at points? Not likely. If we restrict it like that, it will end up repeating the same results with Pagos. In this case, this and Logos actions is mandatory. Will damage the freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's nice.
This just makes me upset reading all of this. I'm absolutely fuming.
The Logos actions don't really feel mandatory yes, they do, because you need them for the relic. Right. So the next Eureka content patch is 4.55. Yoshida says, at least not patch 4.5. We already managed to wrap up the work ready for patch 4.5, but we're not pushing that kind of step too soon. Now that Pyros is patched, how are players' receptions? Atma, about expected level of enjoyment. It seems that we learned from experience of making Animos and Pagos lived up to that. In Pyros, we intentionally placed loopholes in the balance that would break the balance here and there, and we did make sure to place them a lot. So there's a lot of, We intended to make players excited to find these holes in the balance when they look like mistakes. When they look like bugs. Mistakes of the content? I think players are enjoying that as expected. Right. How do you feel? Are you happy, Rollo, about these answers?
They intentionally gimped Eureka at the start.
Yeah.
Because they made it boring on purpose. Not even in the old MMO style. You could have had like a fun sandbox thing with Logos actions from the start.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
It's what?
Yeah.
I probably would have liked it more if they had it at the start.
Yeah. So I'm gonna skip down to the final of the series, Hidatos. To think about it, 14 battle content has the fun of learning the mistakes and getting through mechanics and specific rotations to make sure to have output from everyone. Interpret that sentence however you like. However, in the field, all you do is repeat the best damage rotation, and continuous hunting makes it mundane and sleepy.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to work to change that? Mr. Atma says, we, of course, expected that kind of reception from such part. However, even if we make Eureka bound to gameplay different to Final Fantasy XIV damages the freedom to it, and all about being sleepy, means you can do that without much thought into it. This is an interview that Eureka could be the content that you visit whenever you don't feel like doing too much work. Sometimes even myself just raise the hand for Fate Train, I guess, while watching a movie or something.
What?
And it felt
That's literally what I did.
like giving the atmosphere of, I will log on for a while already, so I think it wouldn't be that bad to what it means to do Eureka.
This is so absurd.
It is absurd.
He's admitted that even he finds it so boring he has to watch something while doing it.
Why? You intentionally made something boring.
I like.
Do you have a deal with Netflix? Is this like it's to get people to sub and have something to watch while they're doing Eureka?
He just said he puts on a movie. You know, it could be any service, Ronnie.
Okay.
Okay, Hulu. Add Hulu in there. There you go.
Okay. I'm going to skip ahead. We heard something like a public dungeon coming up. Mr. Atma says, how far can we talk about this? Yoshida, just skimming. If you have enjoyed the fields throughout Eureka, I'm sure most of them will find it as enjoyable as the previous ones. There's extra place beyond that, called a public dungeon. It will be very challenging.
Extra place.
Okay, it sounds interesting. Sure.
So there will be similar parts from the previous ones, and also a dungeon as a plus alpha. Sounds like it will be difficult to progress from outside to inside. Atma, we can't tell you much, but it will be the most noticeably different part of Eureka. Yoshida, almost like Ultimate Alliance raid.
No.
Atma, sounds like it. Wait, not like Ultimate, more like Savage. Yoshida, so that's something new coming up. It will be sort of an extension of Pyros and about playing it whenever you want as main direction, so you can rest easy about that. Everyone might bring weapons with massive substats or powerful logos actions to sweep through the public field, but in the end, we prepared something that you want to draw every knowledge and action possible to break through.
Some of these sentences are like reading fortune cookies.
It is.
Oh no.
So the finale is within the next Eureka, which means upcoming Hidatos. Hidatos will be. No, it's Greek, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hidatos.
Any Greeks in chat?
Well, they'll just type it. They'll type it the same way.
Type the pronunciation for us.
Will be the last of the Forbidden Land Eureka. I'm quite interested in how it will look like. Yoshida, it will be the last. Mr. Atma, if you progress the story, you might be able to guess that. Yoshida, you can't leave the story left hanging without proper organization, of course.
They didn't answer the question. I'm quite interested how it would look like. It will be the last.
Thanks, I guess.
I mean, okay. Thanks.
I think we're gonna...
I
think we're done.
Oh, is there nothing?
It's just
There's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, to clarify, it did sound better when I read it the day before this, but okay. Well, that's that was the interview with Mr. Atma and Yoshi-P about Eureka.
Absolutely baffling interview.
Really strange.
Interesting though. Very interesting.
For them, Eureka is a great success. It is going strong, and it is exactly how they hoped it would be. People
we
watching
made shit on purpose, guys.
We're watching Netflix. Yeah. We're sleepy.
When in reality, everyone is just forcing themselves through it because they want the purple weapons.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this. I think it's like. I always have to defend Eureka because no one else will, but it's just we already have like content that only a small percentage of people do, like PvP, Savage raiding, Ultimate raiding, and Eureka is one of them, and then you have the casual content, I guess, which would be roulettes and normal mode stuff, I guess. And Gold Saucer. I think it's just difficult because I feel, to me, the Eureka thing feels a lot like when they actually introduced PvP. The same sort of outrage came. It was even more almost back when that came out because it was PvP, which a lot of people felt had no place in a Final Fantasy MMO.
Yeah.
But we've sort of grown to accept it. We make fun of it, and Eureka is always going to be the laughingstock of, you know, content, whether we like it or not. It's always going to be brought up as like the boring content. But
yeah,
the developer admitted it.
Yeah.
So I'm not wrong.
And I've had more fun in Pyros than I've done in, well, at least in Pagos. Let's just say that. But
because you had a cool logo system, it should have been there from the start.
Yeah.
You made it boring on purpose. Don't forget.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because I suspected this was the case. Because otherwise they wouldn't have pushed it as much as they've done, because with Diadem they just fucking dropped it immediately. They were like, oh fuck, they didn't, and then they tried to remake it and that failed too, and they're like, oh fuck, okay, we'll leave it alone. With Eureka, they're like, we're doing the whole thing, going through, though they have been patching it, making it less awful,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not surprised by this interview, although it is a little bit. They were a little bit more direct than I expected. It's a little bit like, oh yeah. I guess that the fact that you get sleep is part of the content. Just fire up some Netflix and watch a movie. Like, yeah.
I don't have a problem with niche content because I don't do everything in the game. I don't want to. There's stuff I don't like doing, and that's fine. But it's like the amount of work put into Eureka, and they're saying this is niche content. We're making 4 new zones for niche content, and we're making these logo
and
systems.
50
That's
unique
niche.
spells almost.
Yeah.
A lot of them are unique animations.
Like that. Why is that much work for niche content? That doesn't make any sense. Like Ultima is neat. Like Ultimate stuff is niche, right? But like I feel like the amount of work put into that is kind of equivalent for the amount of people that do it. You know?
Yeah.
Here it's like, oh, we didn't expect that many people to do this. What?
Yeah.
Well, at least Ultimate, even if you don't partake in it, brings a community together for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Of the excitement of it. I don't remember many people going, oh god, have you seen who's just got world first level 20 elemental in Eureka? Oh my god.
I mean, it's not even.
It's only Lucio Braystone. Sadly.
I like chat. It's like something you can do when you'd otherwise be jumping around in your garden. It's true.
It is, but
because you can jump around in Eureka and earn some tomes, maybe camp. I mean, and a lot of people. Last time I brought this up was like because I said you can just jump in there and just do that for like half an hour or so. And some people are like, no, you have to be there like the whole time. There's never any time you just jump in. I do that all the time. I'm like there for like 15 minutes. No, 15 minutes. Do like 1 or 2 fates. I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Bye, and then I leave. Like you don't have, and then you've progressed. There's some progress. It's not like you don't have to sit there for 4 different instances to finish the weapon on day 2. Like there's no.
I mean, but okay. You've seen how long it's taken me to get through all this shit. Like starting from like level 7-ish or something.
Yeah.
And like. You have to do a lot of it. You can't go in for 15 minutes like a day and make any meaningful progress.
Well, you can if you could do fate trains and if you do like your logs. And I mean you did logs in Animos, which is you can do, is legit. You can do that. But you're missing out on the fates. The fates in Pagos, if you'd done those, weaved those in between your doing your challenge log, you'd get way more EXP, and you'd get your ether shit up as well, which you won't do when you do your books in Animos. So there's there are ways of doing it that would speed things up. You are doing it in a less efficient way by doing it in Animos.
I was doing it the most efficient way.
No, because you don't progress on your weapon.
I did progress with my weapon.
Does the weapon gauge grow in Animos?
No,
it doesn't.
No,
I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
There's no. I mean, like I sprinkled fates in there while doing the challenge log.
He's leveling, but he's not doing the weapon.
Yeah.
No, I am doing the weapon. Well, not for maybe like.
Also, you don't get the crystals either, which you really need. So yeah, I understand. Pagos is shit. I'm not going to defend it. It's bad. It's bad design, and they seem to have semi-acknowledged it with all their patches, even though they didn't say anything in this interview. They did kind of when they said that they hadn't, that it was done before they could like tweak it for the feedback for Animos. But it gets better in Pyros. But
yeah, Pagos is the best.
I'm sure it does, but that stuff should have been front-loaded, like the logo system.
Yeah.
Like if that was in the beginning, I would like this is fun. I like messing around and doing seal combinations. I would I'd be down to slap some like mobs all day.
Yeah.
Well, not all day. For like a while, doing like, oh, here's I cast death, whatever. That's fun, right?
Yeah.
But just it's all at the back end.
Yeah.
And they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem defensible anymore. Like
Eureka has just come to stay, and it's part of the 14 ecosystem. It's part of the content cycle now. It's not also, I just want to say, some people say it's taking up a whole patch. It's not. It's an additional patch that's added later.
Yeah.
It's not even in the main patch. It doesn't take up any space from the main patch, right? It's part of the second, like a Hildebrand quest line. Like Hildebrand is also a side quest, the side patch. Usually,
I mean, it is a big point, like for that update though when Eureka does come out. Like that is
that's true.
That goes up there with the raids and all that.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's not like they've skimped out on the other content for it.
No.
I mean,
Apart from one dungeon loss.
It's
But
hard.
the raids
we
have been good, and the alliance raids have been good, and they've had an ultimate, and they've had
it'll be
lots of other new stuff.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes with 5.0. But
Yeah,
Eureka's
that'll
ending.
be a big one, yeah.
Eureka's storyline and everything ends now, so we're done with the Isle of Val. But whether or not Eureka's like core systems return in some other form, we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm sure this.
I'm glad they tried.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would rather them kind of try and fail and we miss out on a dungeon or something. Like I'm glad they've acknowledged it's boring too.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping like going forward, it's like okay, like the idea of Eureka's fine, but going forward, I would like to see some major changes to it if they're going to keep doing this. Because if it's just this again,
Yeah.
for 5.0, like fuck that, I'm not doing that. No.
Yeah.
You can keep the grinding, but remove the leveling. Ugh.
I don't know. I kind of there's this weird. Might just be my old MMO habits, but there's this sense of, it feels good to level.
It only feels good to level once you get over that hump when you're suddenly powerful and can do all the fates and join in with everything.
Yeah,
and you've
But
got
the
all
XP curve is so fucking
it is.
rough.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's very rough.
That's
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like some people, always talk about we would have one extra dungeon. Would you be doing that extra dungeon right now? Like, would that help anything?
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying too. I'm glad that we have like
Yeah.
I'm just
experimental
saying
content.
because a lot of people are like, we lost a dungeon for this. I'm like,
Yeah,
we
I don't-
did,
that's fine.
and does it matter? Does that one extra dungeon change anything? The expert roulette is boring after 2 weeks, anyways. It's no matter
Yeah.
how many dungeons you put in there. Well, maybe if you like 1 million dungeons, it would be nice, but
I mean, I like expert
You'd-
roulette,
you'd-
that's just me.
oh god, no. To me, same
I
as
like
Pagos.
expert,
I turn
yeah.
on. I can have Netflix on when I do expert roulette. I don't pay attention.
That's
when I'm
why
in
you're
expert.
such a.
But it's more engaging though.
Not if you've done it like 20
It
times.
is engaging. It is more engaging. You
Yeah,
can't
like you
disagree with
can't.
that.
You aren't just slapping like your rotation like with 20 other fucking people on a mob.
It's 20 minutes
But
of
if you do the
pure
same in a
adrenaline.
dungeon. Mela, you're just lying now.
No.
You're just
No, that wasn't like. But an expert dungeon, you go in, you do the pull, you do the boss, you do the pull boss. Eureka is stand
Do what
still
you
on a
want.
rock while everyone else does all the work for you.
Oh, is that
and
what you
Yeah.
do in Eureka, Mela?
it is
Yes,
when you're
you-
too low
you
level
do
to
that.
join in.
When you're leveling, that's what you
well,
do.
that's when
'cause
you
it
do.
doesn't matter.
You forge your own path, Mala. That's what Eureka is all about. It's like you've been dropped out of the the linear dungeon, and you're like, oh,
You don't
there's no line
forge
to
your own
follow.
path. What you do is you go into the old content, abuse the viewers by getting a group of 8 people who are willing to mindlessly grind and do the challenge logs, and then
Yeah.
level up 3 times on a Friday night.
We've only done that like twice ever. I
but
finished my.
It's also almost all the levels I've got for Pagos.
Well, that's you abusing the viewers. I'm already way higher than you in level, and I did it alone.
Yeah, because you're a noob.
If you're part of the Eureka Elite guys, you are the true hardcore players.
Yeah.
I'm not even.
This-
I'm not even capped in Pyros. I haven't touched Pyros since the week it
Have
came
you
out.
even got your endgame relic yet? The end
No.
at the front? What are you doing?
I'm not doing Pyros because I'm.
Do Pyros.
Do you like Pyros?
No, it's boring.
What do you want?
Ah!
This is coming
Anyways,
from the guy who likes Eureka, or
That's-
defends it at least.
that's the
It's
end of the
typical
show.
Lucio.
Thank you guys for
No, it's
tuning
not.
in.
Oh, it is. God,
You gotta-
God.
what happened to the log mail?
We'll read Mogmail in the post show.
Oh, my level 2, yeah.
We'll. Oh yeah, fuck.
Oh god, that again. This must be the last dungeon.
I hate Eureka with a burning passion.
I actually like Animus. Or liked.
We're
And
going
then Pagos ruined everything.
to the
Tantara
Temple of
Deepa.
the Fist.
No!
Oh. No!
We just talked about sleepy content, now we're going into sleepy dungeon.
This is the
Mm.
worst week ever.
Get ready for those tapas, baby.
Let's see what we get. Oh, it's back. Oh, you
I
can't hear
it.
it. Why can only I hear it? Oh,
Oh, there it is.
Oh, now I hear it.
this
It
is-
works.
This is gonna be very loud for people.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No HP.
Okay, no right side
Remember-
gear.
Good luck healing us.
Oh, well, hello, Aorsians. So, originally I had planned, well, we did this live. There's supposed to be Full House music playing here, but, you know, copyright. That's a thing that happens. Every now and then you get a copyright claim. So we can't have it on here, so there's this theme. Oh yeah, also my voice you can hear right now. So I thought that was funny. No one was prepared for that because I had accidentally pressed a button. But here's Dick. Classic. Well, I'll retreat now. Here's... Oh god, I'm speaking over this as well. Well, I'll see you on the flip side. And if you're listening to this, please type bikini in the comments section. All right. See you next week. Also buy t-shirts. We have t-shirts now. Lots of things. I don't know the address. It's 4 a.m. I need to go to bed. Bye.